All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Investor Shed podcast. We've got a special episode for you today. Obviously, we've got our host here, Nicholas Beveridge, and we have a guest in the studio with us, Leif Durston. Leif, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing so great. I'm so excited to be inside your shed in your backyard. It's wonderful. I love it.
Not a lot of guys are ever excited to be in someone else's shed in the backyard, so thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the compliment. I don't get to explain my shed very often, but it was nice to explain it again. I almost forgot how long ago I built it for this intended purpose, and then didn't actually do it for like 4 years.
Yeah, you are the person that is living the goal of your old self that was like dreaming of this. And
Yeah.
just like walking past it like, what's up, shed?
Yeah, I'm gonna build a studio in my backyard and then just let other people use it.
Story of our life. So let's kind of get down to the business today. We've got, like I said, we've got Leif on the episode. Leif, I wanted to start it off and kind of just ask you a couple questions, if you don't mind. So give us your background. Where did you start, and what got you interested in real estate?
Oh, sure, yeah. So I feel like I've always kind of been interested in real estate because it's got all the things I like a bit of design, and you get to go in there and work on it. And I had a lot of fallacies about what real estate was. I thought you could just do it all yourself. And like, you could build your own house. You could tear it all out and do yourself. Like, you don't need contractors, right? Just do everything yourself. And this was like teens Leif really thinking about it.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't really get into this, honestly, until last year. I had desires to get into it for a long time, but my background kind of more comes from just accounting, bookkeeping, operations, that kind of stuff. But I did have my first business quite a while ago trying to sell BMW parts used online. So
Oh no way!
that
You're
was
kidding.
that was a really great learning lesson. That's where I learned how like partnerships shouldn't work.
Yeah,
And how you should make like a ton of bad decisions and like live in the red the whole time.
Okay. I seriously thought something like that was so niche I would never hear of anyone doing it again. So we have a friend named Alan. And he worked for a guy up here like in Athol for like quite a while. He was a mechanic. But they tore apart old BMWs and
No
sold
kidding.
all the parts on eBay.
That's
And that
literally
was
what
their
we did.
whole business. Their whole business was they just like bought all these old junker BWs and just tore them apart and like just put the parts, in their certain categories and listed everything. And
That was my competition.
it.
Literally eBay, literally everything. We had
Yeah.
our cool photo studio. We had the blue, that turf stuff, but we had blue turf, so it was like our signature photo.
Oh,
so you got out of it because it just wasn't making money though.
Yeah, it was like terrible. And, my business partner was just like, we were just like co-stoners for a while. And it's
Okay.
like, we're going to do this thing, right? And it was failed from the beginning. So
sure. Were you passionate about that project, or like if Nick approached me and was like, "Hey man, I want to sell used BMW parts," I'd probably tell him to
yeah.
go kick rocks, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you have to
no.
kind of be passionate about that. I'm assuming, correct?
Oh yeah, I love to take them apart, and that's my only vehicles I have right now. I drove my oldest one here today, all
Nice.
the way from Washington. So, yeah, I still am into that world. But I realized also at the time, combining one's hobby with one's income, unless you do it really right, can be really challenging, right? Because you're like, great, I'm not making money, and I hate my hobby.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
fun.
Speaking of you driving all the way here, we will get to you and your investments, but why don't we just talk about this weekend if you don't mind?
I'd love to. It was so cool. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
So tell us, where'd you hear about the event that we threw, and what'd you think of it?
So I believe I heard about it first from my friend who lives here, and he told me about it. And then I did see a little bit of information come along on it online. But what I thought of it was, I was actually amazed. Like, I saw Tom Wheelwright was there. I'm like, no, he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you're like an accounting guy, right?
Yeah, I love that world. And I read his book actually a while ago, which is why I thought, oh, short-term rentals for me. I want to that's aligns with it perfectly. It's got some active losses. I have active income. I want to do something about that and all the other reasons. So I was a big fan of tax-free wealth. And when I saw him on there, I'm like, they got the star. How did they do that? I got to
Got
go.
the star of the show.
Yeah.
What's funny is he degraded me. He called me just the audio video guy, and I'm like, I invest too, but thank you.
No, I did notice that. Ryan and I both commented. We were like, "Oh, poor Jeremy."
That's okay. It's Tom Wheelwright, man. Like, what am I going to say to him? Like, nothing I could say to him. Like, yes, I am the audio video guy, but here's my questions.
But the audio video guy is supremely important. So that is
Yeah. It was what was so funny about Tom? He was the only grouchy guy there.
he was grouchy.
Yeah, well, you didn't get to see it, but out of all the guest speakers, he was the only one that came in there. You can just tell he was upset with us. I don't know why. We had this little disclosure to sign, just like a little waiver where, hey, we're going to be doing video and all this stuff. And he like scratched a bunch of stuff off of it.
Oh.
No other. And you could tell he was just, for whatever reason, just kind of like didn't want to be there. Maybe because, it was a smaller event in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. But then, he got on stage, did his thing, and everyone's just like, whoa, mind's blowing.
Mm-hmm.
He did deliver.
He sure
Did a great job,
Yeah.
and then he got the heck out of there as soon as he was done.
Yeah, I saw him just sneak right out. I'm like, okay, well, there's my chance to get my book signed, but that's okay.
Sorry about that.
No, I didn't bring my good one. I had the brand new one. It looked like I was just a poser. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I didn't have my like.
You look like you
loved
bought it
one.
just for the event, but you
Yeah.
had the previous version, right?
Didn't think about that.
Well, yeah, no, it was a really cool event. And just so everyone knows the event that we're speaking of right now, we just got back from the North Idaho REI conference.
Yep.
September 21st, 22nd, 2024. Really good turnout, really good vibes. Everyone seemed to really enjoy themselves, and they're going to really pressure you guys to do it again next year. So good luck with that.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna
We
happen,
kept threatening. We're like, we're not doing this ever again, guys. So enjoy it while it's here.
It's just like asking, your wife, like the day that, she had your kid, like, do you want to have another one? Mm-hmm. Like, no.
Yeah. No.
Well, you're creating scarcity of a product right now, too. When you say, like, we're not going to do this next year, you create that fear and the fear of missing out. So good job. You're actually hyping yourself up more by saying you're not going to do it.
Yeah. Stop with exposing my secrets, okay?
All right, but let's talk about Leif, right? So, like, obviously you started out, you were selling used BMW parts on eBay. Make any money? Did you make anything?
Yeah, I made a lot of bad decisions and learned a ton. Honestly, I had gone to school for a sneeze before that and just failed right out because I was like, I don't want to go to school. And then I did this and I was like, I don't need school, And then,
I can sell eBay parts.
I can be an eBay professional. So that didn't work.
So wait, what year was this, would you say?
Oh, this was 2012, 2011, 13,
Oh, okay.
something like that.
So a little over a decade ago.
Yeah, about that time. But what I did learn from that is bookkeeping and accounting because I had to keep my own books. My mother did bookkeeping for a long time, so I did learn a little bit of that when I was growing up, which was like a really important lesson I learned. Mm-hmm. And so I did have a bit of a marketable skill, and so I was like kind of snuck into this bookkeeping role at a company that manufactured things. And I was like, I can totally do this. I haven't gone to school for this, but I can do this.
Yeah,
and I convinced her to make it happen, and that's kind of how I got out of that.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Into the real world of working, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you didn't go to college for like accounting or anything
I
like that?
eventually did, but not for accounting. I got my business management degree like online in a school I didn't want to go to because I kind of burned some bridges at a different school, and I just had to get it. Your decade bachelor's degree, that was me. I got
Nice.
the
What kind
10-year.
of bridges did you burn? I'm
Just
curious.
like, my GPA started with a 0 and then a point.
Okay.
Yeah.
You sound like my high school career. That's great.
Nice. So, what made you actually interested in like investing in short-term rentals? Like, what was the first thing that just made you actually take action on that?
Man, I'm glad you said take action because before I had heard like some horror stories of people I've been around, I was just a forever researcher. Mm-hmm. I'll just research and look and analyze and then just be like, eventually I'll be the type of person that can act on this deal, right?
Yeah, and you're not alone. Like that's 80% of the investors out there that like attend events like this and listen to podcasts. Like a lot of them just struggle taking action and they just research themselves out of it completely.
A research professional, yes. Yeah. So I was kind of in that mode, but I only worked for a company for a couple of years and then I went off and did my own thing again. So I was self-employed by the time I was living in Seattle, 5-6 years ago. So being self-employed, trying to invest in your first real estate, having like no income track record that lenders love, that was kind of a big challenge.
But you were an accountant. Can't you just move money around and make it look like you make money?
I wasn't an accountant.
It was not an accountant, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what I learned. So I went into a kind of I have no real estate people around me, at least at the time. Like my family didn't do such things. So I was like, oh, I'll just, go to my credit union and get a loan and it'll just like work. Right. So
Oh, been there.
I was just like, yeah, I'll just go in and it'll work. And then I was like, what are brokers even for? You don't need brokers. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, just go straight to the horse's mouth and then you end up going to like some sheep's mouth and you're like, oh, yeah, it's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I think you asked why SGR. So it was a very logical decision. I was living in Western Washington, the Seattle area. I wanted to invest in my home market because of lots of reasons. I was new to it. I wanted to be nearby it while I was new to it. And I liked the area. I thought it had future growth opportunity. long-term rental was out for two reasons. One, it just doesn't cash flow, right? It's all negative, right? This was to give you context. This is 2023, like early 2023.
Post COVID, I
Yeah.
mean, Washington was a different breed over there too, as far as what we heard over this way, right? I mean, it was hard to fill renters. It was hard, with your state legislative laws. It's hard to evict people. Are we wrong here, or is that pretty accurate?
You are dead accurate.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So my nightmare scenario was like, okay, I'm going to get this. If I did long-term rental, I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to get someone placed in there, and they're just going to squat, and then I will be ruined. My first one, all of my life savings, full risk. It was just I couldn't handle the risk.
That's what's important about this. So, like, that's a very important thing. Like, on your first deal specifically, like, if it doesn't work out, it will break you if you don't have the resources to fund it, right?
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing. And I think that's what stops a lot of first-time investors from actually putting their foot on the gas, is knowing that, like, this is everything I've saved for, and if this doesn't go the way I want it to, I'm out of the game. Right, but it's also important to remember, like, you only fail if you quit. So there's things you can build yourself out of. But continue with your story, please.
Sure, yeah. So in this way, I had kind of some challenges in the past of like, okay, being on a partner, having to deal with a partner that doesn't perform, and like, what's an operating agreement, right? So I was very cautious of putting risk in things that I couldn't control. I was happy to put risk on myself, be like, if I don't perform and it fails, totally no problem. Like, I can own and control all of that, and I can just like hustle and fix that. So long-term rental is a bit scary. The risk was external to me. I was not into that. Not to mention the bank would be like, no, rents are $2,000 and the mortgage is $4,000. Like,
Right.
no. So I did I'll buy FHA, live in it for a while, fix it up, and then do short-term rentals. And that was kind of my path forward to get into that.
Okay, and for the kind of beginners out there, can you explain what that means? You mentioned terms like STR, FHA, that kind of stuff. So STR, break that down.
But Bayerische Motorwerke is BMW. So
Yeah, so short-term rentals, right?
Exactly.
Whenever you say STR.
yeah, STR. So if you're like new to it, that'd be Airbnb. Right.
Airbnb, yep. Airbnb, or what's the other one?
Verbo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you decided to do this because they typically produce more money, right?
They can produce more revenue.
More revenue. Yeah, okay. Good distinction. Good distinction.
Yeah. And then the other, I think you're talking about FHA. So the financing was a challenge. So I had a couple hurdles. One was I'm self-employed, and I still am. So not having that W-2, like I was joking with my broker for a while, Jennifer Everhart, by the way, in case you're trying to get a good thing. She's up here in Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, yeah, we met her. Yeah.
She's just great.
Yeah, we've worked with her.
She made it all happen. She waved the wands. I was just like, what are you doing? Okay, this is great. So she was able to make it happen, and that's exactly where you need like a broker, I realized, because you can't just go into a bank and like explain this to them. Like, they don't get it.
Right.
So she was able to help me find the right product to make this happen. And because I didn't have like this track record in investing in real estate, those options weren't quite open for me for financing. So basically all I could do was just do it as owner occupied and move into it and work on it and fix it up, and then eventually change what it's being used for.
Perfect. And let's kind of dive into the actual property itself, if you don't mind.
Sure. So
is it like a 2-1, a 3-2? Is it a multifamily property?
Yeah, so it's a 1-1 inside a condo from a building that I absolutely hated when I started the process and swore I would never buy in, and I hated the building and everything about it.
Okay, 1-bedroom condo.
1-bedroom, 1-bath condo, which is
Okay. The cheapest thing you can get.
the cheapest.
Yeah, but that's like Seattle standard, though, right? Like, a lot of people are just traveling business professionals. Like, it is a market where that would make sense.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are in downtown Seattle. If you open the windows, you see the convention center right there.
Okay.
So it's right next to the convention center.
Gotcha. So
Deeded-
it's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds like something that would almost always be booked.
That's true, yeah. So we'll get into the bookings in a second here, but no spoilers. But it is like in a large complex, but it's an old building. It's 1942, but it's not like cute 1942. It's like,
Gotcha. It's
industrial, rough. That kind of thing.
So it needed work too. So you got an FHA loan, which is a federal housing association. It's a government-sponsored loan where you basically you can bring less money down than a typical mortgage. 3.5%.
Okay, so I might be confusing which exactly. It's a conventional loan. It's definitely conventional. I don't know if it's FHA for sure, because I did bring 10%.
Oh, you brought 10%.
The reason being is that lenders are really challenged with condos specifically.
Gotcha. FHA especially.
Yeah, and then Condotel is what that was turned into by the lenders because it was like, certain amounts of them are being rented out, and so like they don't treat them the same, so it's very risky.
Sure.
Yeah, it's hard to get conventional financing on condos if there's a certain amount of them that are being used as rentals or short-term rentals. Right. Yeah, if they're not all like the majority is owner occupied, it could be on this secret list that you never hear of we just don't finance these.
Very much so. I was amazed by it. I actually can't believe we closed. We almost didn't at the very end because there was some part of the CCNRs that was like, oh, there's a change of tenant fee, like a $5 or $10 thing, which was aimed at short-term rental owners in this building to be like, hey, it's kind of just, we want to collect more money from short-term rental people.
Sure.
But I don't remember if it was Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, but they were like, oh, that's no good for us. That's the HOA getting in on the game. And they were like, we won't. And so that was found out the last hour, and she had to jump ship to the other one, and they made it happen.
Okay. Well, so was it more expensive or less expensive for you to move into this condo at first than your previous residence?
So I kept my previous residence.
Oh,
so
okay.
this is a short amount of time it ended up being to do the rehab, but it didn't need a lot. It just was like ugly and like walls and some surface stuff and things like that, fixtures and things like that.
Okay, and you did all the work yourself?
Yeah, so I did.
Sounds like we're going to learn something here.
Yeah, so first time I was like, I'll just do it myself. And, the challenge was I closed on it like middle of summer. So it was like the first couple of months of like the best revenue time possible. It's just like I'm in there making negative revenue, right in there. So I worked on it. My father flew in for a little bit, and he's a whiz with managing kind of like houses and projects and so on like that. So that was really great to have. Had my sister there, had my boyfriend there, scraping the ceiling off, right? Like had people around me that I was feeding horrendously expensive Seattle food to bribe and come over and help me with it. I have like a whole category of like my remodel is just like food budget.
Oh,
right?
yeah. You got to pay people for sure.
I've done that.
Yeah.
Pizza.
Right.
Pizza works
Tons of
great.
pizza. Yeah. Sandwiches. But then pizza's like $50 because, you're in downtown
Right, you're in
Seattle.
Seattle. It's not like you can't just go to Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
A pizza
downtown
what?
people.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with you guys. Just charge too much for pizza.
It's horrendous.
Yeah.
So let's get down to some like numbers on this property then, Leif. So what did you buy it for? What was your purchase price?
Let me get my numbers out on my phone here.
Yeah, I'm looking at your phone. Is it 1997 called, by the way?
97?
What is that? That's a phone, not a pager?
How dare you? It's a phone, you
What
see?
kind of phone is that?
That's pretty cool. Look at this.
It's called
It's a mini iPhone.
It's called a Jelly Star.
Okay.
It keeps me detoxed a bit from the world, but I run my entire business.
I love it. That's great. It's something that can keep you detoxed from like Facebook and Instagram. Get it. That's great.
Yeah.
It's
For
great.
those just listening on audio, he just whipped out what looks like a pager, but it's got a little screen on it.
Yeah. Picture an
It's
iPhone,
the most
but like
adorable little phone I've ever seen.
picture an iPhone, but shrunk to like a third of the size and like a little bit more round around the edges, and that's
It runs
called?
Android. I can tap to pay. I can do all the things I need to do.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
But if I need to do real work, I just gotta open the laptop. See, that's how that works.
Man, you're lucky you've got good vision because I'm gonna say
I will say
there will come a day where that thing will not suit you
you just
anymore.
pinch to zoom more. That's all. You're just pinching more.
All right,
That's
gotcha.
all there is,
Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, let's talk about it though. Leif. Like,
$380,000 was the purchase.
$380,000
Yeah, for a
for-
tiny condo.
man, it's so weird, like hearing the market over there and over here, right? Like, and I don't mean to compare apples to oranges because that's exactly what this is. But my wife and I bought our primary house for $300,000.
In what year?
2021 up here.
Really?
Yeah. It was a 3.2, 1,900 square foot brand new build.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, but
Okay.
so that's the difference, obviously, in like market. Obviously, you wanted to invest where you lived, right? What was your reason for that?
Yeah, I wanted to be able to. I knew I'd know nothing in the beginning, and I knew this was actually. I went into this thinking that I need to just make a little bit of money, or just not lose a ton, because mostly this is an educational experience.
Sure.
I have a philosophy. I think I can nail all these components of hospitality, but I don't know. I don't have any proof.
Right.
So I just need to do it and not lose a ton of money.
Sure.
So that was why home market for me.
Okay. Now, do you rent out your primary residence, or do you rent as your primary residence?
No, yeah, I rent as my primary residence
Okay.
because it's again Seattle, and
yeah,
you
yeah.
just can't. You saw yesterday, and all the speakers were talking about like these huge discrepancies between renting and owning, and you're just like, I gotta rent.
No, yeah, and it makes sense. It's definitely a rental market over there, and that's why you
Totally is.
should get a rental if you can. But it's very hard to do that. So,
Yeah.
bought it for $380,000. You put 10% down, so $38,000 plus
Like
fees.
40,000-ish,
$40,000, right? Okay. So your mortgage on this thing was $350, $345.
Yeah, so it's $2,700,
Okay.
but what do you think the HOA is in a building like that?
How many units is it?
There's like 200.
I'm going to say 140 a month.
That would be amazing.
I'm gonna say 400 a month.
That would be amazing.
Oh,
Wow,
geez,
okay.
Come on.
It just got upgraded to like $5.99.
Holy moly.
Okay, so what does that include? Hey, quick commercial break here. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really do appreciate it. If you want to give back, let me help you buy a house, or I can help you sell a house. It's the only way I make money when I'm not investing in real estate. I don't make money on this podcast or the events I do, but I do make money only when I help people buy and sell houses. So if you're looking for your next investment and you're here in North Idaho, I want to help you personally. If you are not in North Idaho, I can still help you out. I have a vast network of referral partners all across the country, and I can find the right real estate investor savvy agent for you so you don't have to. It doesn't cost you a thing. Thank you for your support. Back to the show.
Okay,
With your HOA.
fair.
Yeah.
Fair. So it does include like water and heat and internet.
Okay.
Water and heat.
And internet.
Everything but electricity.
Okay.
So everything but
Heat's
electricity.
not electricity.
It's a boiler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What makes that unique?
What do you mean unique?
So you're able to just crank it up on your own, or does like the whole
So it's just,
building
it's just got
control
like
that?
boilers with like radiators in the floor, or not near the floor, and you just have a like manual valve you can turn on.
But it doesn't use electricity.
it
It's
uses the building steam.
the building steam.
Yeah, so it's just a boiler in the basement that uses the building steam. It's huge, actually, two of them. Yeah, but
Yeah. I typically know how this stuff works, but I don't know how big buildings work. I know how houses work, but not
right,
boilers.
yeah. So this is it's fascinating actually because I can't even use it.
Oh, dang
So
it.
one thing I had to do when looking into this building at first is I went through and found every Airbnb and short-term rental in this building and cataloged all of them and went through all the bad reviews and put them all into a spreadsheet and was like, what do people hate this building? And what do people hate all the units in this building? And can I mitigate those challenges? And one of them and a lot of them was like, the radiators will just like knock and bang all night long. So they'll just be like,
no.
you'll be
Okay.
sleeping and then it'll be like someone takes a hammer and just starts hammering
come.
on shit next to you.
Wow.
Okay, so again, what does that all include again? You said water
Yeah.
and Wi-Fi?
Yeah, so internet, water, basically everything but electricity. So sewer, trash,
Sewer,
and so
all that
on.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then of course
and if you have a
building
normal
insurance.
house or something like that, like all this could add up to $300
Yeah,
easily
it
too per
certainly
month.
could.
So it's really not that bad.
Yeah.
You got some shared expenses in a big building.
It's just
so that could
emotionally
help.
horrendous to me. That's all.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay. So 20. So you've got about so far before any other expenses. It sounds like $3,300 a month.
Yeah. So 33 is kind of like just the holding cost of the building. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So, what did you know anybody else in the building doing something like this? Did you have good comps to know how much you should get per year?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up comps. So, everyone that kind of has been in this world kind of knows about like AirDNA and MASH fires and so on. I think those tools, I did use them, are helpful when looking at markets. But once you're down to like a zip code or an area or whatever, you need to just pull literal comps and see how they're doing and be like, okay, what are they charging in September? What are they charging in November? What are they charging 2 months from now, 1 month, week from now? And just do a lot of manual work and see what people are getting and doing. Actually, this place was a short-term rental before I bought it.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I forgot to mention that really important piece of
Oh,
information.
okay.
So
This
I
sounds like a horrible one, though.
it was
Very
which is-
dated and everything, right? Like they didn't make any money, I'm assuming, right?
So they had it outsourced to management and they're doing a terrible job at it. So I was like, this is a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, that sounds like a good opportunity, right?
Did
So-
it come with furniture?
So it was furnished. It was furnished.
That's usually the advantage of buying.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were like, we will sell it to you for $20,000 ready to go, turnkey. And I was like, this is all shit and garbage.
Right.
For a one bedroom,
Yeah.
$20,000 worth of furniture. Okay, hold up. Okay.
And there were some paintings on the wall.
Okay, I furnished an Airbnb, and we typically have a budget like average house, like 10 grand, and that will get us a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember a super fancy, I think it was a 2,800 square foot home that we decided we had a budget of 25,000, and we got a lot of great furniture, all brand new stuff, like pretty high end crap.
Yeah.
So for someone to offer you 20 grand, it sounds like.
Because they were like, oh, well, then you don't have to set anything up. Or either way, it helped me understand the seller is delusional. So
Oh, okay.
I was able to be like, oh, okay, this is who I'm working with, right?
Yeah.
But they were like, they were unsuccessful at it. They left town and they were just getting out of the stuff. And so I was like, I even offered them, I was like, hey, I'll give you like $2,000, you know, because there's a couple things I could use.
Okay.
And they were like, 19,000. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, we're not even close.
So is this negotiated after you guys went under contract or before?
Yeah, so that was a good question to learn. I thought that it was kind of like all going to be kind of included, but then I learned through working with my agent and through just talking to people like, oh no, that's like a separate thing. Bill of sale afterwards. Like don't muddy the waters of the real estate
Of the
transaction.
loan. Yeah.
That was a big lesson. I mean, I didn't do it wrong, but that was a cool tip that I heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. How long? And sorry, I don't know if you already said. How long did it take you to get ready for Airbnb?
Like 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what were the first couple of months like?
Honestly, pretty smooth. You know, I did a lot of work and research on this and getting it figured out of like how I'm going to deal with this. There were a couple like, it was smooth for the customers, I should say.
Sure.
Okay.
And that's
It's
what
not
you want.
smooth for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, oh, I gotta, I didn't think about that. Let me go over there and sort that out. Type of
Managing
thing.
a short-term rental by yourself, it takes a different kind of person to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's something that, like, I have no desire ever to do. I don't have that kind of time, first of all. Like, I've got my own job, I've got my own family, I've got my own things I'm doing. Like, that's going to deter me from a lot of what I want to do in life. But I understand getting started, that you've got to be boots on the ground. Like, if you could change it, would you go back and hire proper management? Or no?
Definitely not property management. As far as contractors and people to help me like scrape the popcorn off the ceiling, again, probably no. Just because it was, I didn't have. I was like cash strapped at that point.
Yeah.
I had enough for closing and enough for remodel, but it's eventually was like, okay, that's going to go on the credit card. So I was like, I'm going to be. I just didn't have the cash flow to make that happen at the beginning. So yeah, no, definitely not at all.
So, and how long ago was this again?
So this was my first guest, September 1st, 2023. So we're kind of right around the
About 1
anniversary.
year.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hit my 1 year.
Okay,
Nothing
great.
burned down.
And then, and you moved right out of it.
Yeah, so I was there kind of on and off and whatever, and stayed there for a while, moved my address there, and kind of established myself in that area a little bit, and then moved back out once it was ready and I was finalized. In fact, if you are doing short-term rentals, I find what sets you apart from the competition is that you have lived there, right?
Right.
You're there, and you make sure like the desk that you tell people they can work on the laptop doesn't shake and shimmy while they're trying to work.
Right.
You make sure the chairs don't screech as you back up. Like you make sure that things aren't weird and there aren't neighbors doing like bizarre things at 3 a.m. Like the property, it's dialed in.
Yeah.
And,
Give
and
a heads up
people love
about the
it.
boiler.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna suck the electricity cost up and just put heaters in there. Like people don't want that. Yeah,
Gotcha.
just shut it off.
Oh,
It is
okay.
what it
Oh,
is.
yeah, the option.
Yeah,
to shut
so
off.
going
But-
back to,
but
like, the
can't you still
challenges.
hear it at night or anything, or is
No,
that
you
only
can
if it
turn
was
the
in your
valve off.
unit?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
only
okay.
if it's in your unit.
I was
yeah.
thinking it was like waking the whole building up. Like, in the basement.
It's like horrendous thing.
Like
Yeah,
a train going through the middle of a building, basically.
Right. Yeah. So back to kind of like sorting out challenges. So I hated this building from day one because it just has like depressing vibes for me. But there's not a lot of buildings you can buy in that have CCNRs that allow short-term rentals in Seattle. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do? What I did do is I had my list of problems with the area, and I was just like, I just got to solve these, and then I won't get 1-star reviews. And so most of solving them was making sure that I told the people that wouldn't like it to stay away. Like, you need to climb steps to get in this. This is an old building. If you're in a wheelchair, if you have kids and strolls like that, you need to know that before you book. Like, you're going to hate this because there's like steps to get in.
Yeah.
It is downtown Seattle. There are some characters who will be hanging around.
I've met those people.
Have you?
There's only 5 of them. Yeah, we've met them all.
Only 5? That would be great. So there's a lot of these like downtown things that might scare a hardened Midwesterner. And so I'm just like, I put that on my post, like as an advertising. They're like, hey, by the way, there are these things going on in downtown Seattle. So if that's, not your speed, don't book this place.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Get ready for excitement.
Yeah, just
Is
be ready.
what you got to say.
Yeah, like,
I can appreciate the honesty in an Airbnb listing, but I think like anyone that comes to Seattle, like every time I go to Seattle, that's just what I expect now.
well, that's because
Yeah.
if you've only seen Frasier though, and you're like, coming from Kansas, and you're like, gosh, Seattle looks beautiful and great. It is.
It is,
But,
yeah.
But so, I believe that what I learned the first year though was a couple big lessons to take away. First was I was thinking, occupancy, right?
Sure.
Occupancy is everything. Like if you don't occupy that night, that's just money on the table. You could have made like more than $0, right?
Yeah.
And so in the winter, which is when I first started, so I had September, but then I went October, November, December into the winter. And so I was like, first new at this, I was like, okay, I gotta fill my calendar up and so on. I gotta get reviews. But then I started lowering the price from like, $110 a night, $95 a night, $85 a night, $75 a night on some of the nights, just see what happens.
Okay, so you were manually controlling the price. You didn't let like Airbnb or whatever do smart pricing.
Good, yeah, so good question. I was and I wasn't. So I'd let it kind of give me a template. So
Yeah.
for anyone that doesn't know, smart pricing, Airbnb will actually Airbnb gives you a ton of tools to help you out. Like back in the day, you had to get third-party plugins and have your property management software. All these things had to do like with adding price and calendar stuff. But Airbnb is great these days, especially if you're a single platform, which is what they want you to do. They want you to be only on Airbnb, and they're like, here's our
sure.
tool stuff. Don't go to Vrbo or Booking.com, right?
Yeah.
And so
But
I
they
did
still
manage my
link
pricing.
together, right? Like their calendars, can they, like if you want to be on Vrbo and Airbnb?
You can still do that. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah. So you just export the calendar. And like the booking blackout stuff all works fine. But they still are like, stay with us.
Yeah. Loyalty really pays when you're doing stuff like that, from what I understand. I don't have a short-term rental, but like it's a lot like social media in that retrospect, that like YouTube wants your business. They don't want your business to go over to Facebook, or they don't want your business on TikTok. Like they want to be the person where you come to when they watch their video. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
It's I understand how it works with that point. So
Airbnb's mission is affordable short-term rentals everywhere in the world, and just they're probably trying to push that stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Well, their app and everything's just so convenient to use. One thing I hate about it lately, though, like when you're just like initially looking at properties, like it only wants to show you like lake properties and stuff at first. Like, how can I just find the normal houses? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
algorithmization of it all. It's kind of unfortunate, right? You open your phone and it just tells you things. You're like, I know that you want me to see that, but like that's not really what I want to see.
Like, why can't I just see everything that's around here? It's
Yeah.
like, no, these are the views. These are the.
this is it. This is what you get.
Yeah.
Did you want to have like a cool event with Nicki Minaj like on the home screen? It's like, that is not what I'm here for. Why? Who is in charge of this decision? It's terrible.
Yeah.
Right.
Great singer though.
Is she? I haven't met her.
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Would like to.
Let's talk about some more numbers before we get caught up on too much on Nicki Minaj. So you bought it for $380. Obviously, your mortgage on it, after all your taxes, fees, association fees, $3,300
With HOA, yeah.
With HOA, you start renting this out. Tell us about those first couple months. I know you said it kind of went into winter, and you were dipping on revenue. I'm assuming, correct?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to do that, but really quick, I want a lesson learned, a big lesson learned, probably the biggest financial oops in this whole thing. I was like, okay, great, escrow and all these new terms to me. This is my first mortgage.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, escrow pays out insurance, escrow pays out like taxes, and escrow pays out like the HOA, and oh, no, it does not pay out the HOA.
Uh-oh.
Oops. So that was a big realization that I had just kind of oversight. If I had thought about it and actually looked into it, I would have realized that.
Yeah.
But I just was like, oh, that's part of that when I'm doing my spreadsheet, right?
Yep.
So suddenly I have this like $12,000 gap per year of what I thought was going to be paid by the mortgage and was totally not.
Dang it.
So that was an ouch.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So going forward, the next time you buy Airbnb, just plan on that not being in escrow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I know.
Yeah, now you know, and that's all we can do most of the time. Like, I mean, I really commend you for just taking the leap. Honestly, Leif. Because it is scary, right? It's scary, but you're learning, and it seems like you're adapting, right? And that's the plan of this whole thing. You're learning and adapting, and you're learning what to do this time. You're learning what not to do next time.
Very much so.
Okay, so let's talk about some more lessons that you learned. Like, obviously, are you in? You hated this building when you bought it.
I did hate this.
Are you satisfied with this as your first property?
Yeah, I actually am. I feel like, I've got the turd. It's kind of shiny now. And so we're feeling pretty good about it. I mean, I have 5-star reviews like across all of it basically. So
Yeah. And when you bought it, you said it had 1-stars and stuff.
it
Now,
had a few 1s and 2s and things like
But
that.
I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but like when you start as a new owner, you have a new profile.
yeah.
The 1-stars don't transfer to you, right?
No, nothing related. It's all about who owns the property. And there are some
Yeah.
like best practices on should you have your account owned by like a new email address or like your personal one that you actually vacation with. There's strategies online. People debate that, but so going back to first couple months and lessons learned. So lowering the price, right? Trying to get like $75 better than $0.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, my cleaning fee was just passed through. So what I charge people just went straight to the cleaner. So that was just like a nothing.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, let's lower it down a little lower. And I had this one woman come in for like $75 a night, which is low for this unit in downtown Seattle area. And I get the cleaners, clean the next day. She was there for just one night, whatever's fine. And then the next people come in and they're like, smells like vomit in here. I'm like,
Oh.
cool.
Nice.
Do you know what it was from?
Probably
Vomit.
vomit.
Yeah. So I did find out what it was from. So apparently my head cleaners, which these are 2 cleaners ago, were like, didn't notice the smell, which was very obvious in the unit. They just were like, it was on the checklist, but they just weren't, it was on their radar, right?
Maybe their nasals were like congested that day.
Or maybe it's just like, this is what I'm used to. Things smell weird sometimes in life.
Yeah.
You don't know what their story is.
It's Seattle, man. The whole thing doesn't smell great most of the time.
Exactly. So it turns out that some human had like a whole vomiting session on the bed that then continued on to the carpet in the bedroom, and which is the only carpet in the place. And it's just like that they hastily cleaned it up with presumably like napkins, right?
Oh, sure.
Sprinkle a little bit of baking soda on it.
I
call it
wish
good.
that would have
Like
been
Big
great.
Daddy, where they just like use the newspapers to clean everything. There you go.
Yeah, a bit of water. So that had me quickly deciding, and I had learned this tip from someone, one of the Bigger Pockets book I read, of just like, oh, I am so sorry that this smells like this. Why don't you go out to dinner? I will pay for dinner. I'm going to get this clean for you to make sure it's all good to go and everything's going to be great. This person actually on their profile said they were a host as well. So I'm like, this could be a good thing or a horrendous thing.
Right.
Right. So I had to just go down there with just like the shampoo machine and like the big extractor fan and being like, okay, come out. And it was just like, it smelled very bad still. And we got it out fully. But that was realized I'm still exposed to all sorts of risks that I don't have a like checklist ready to go.
Yeah.
Like,
and are you do you live nearby the building?
like, okay, so if it's midnight, I am like 35 minutes away. If it's not midnight, I'm like an hour and 30 minutes away.
oh no, and an extra hour.
Well, not really an
traffic.
extra hour, but like 40 more minutes. You're just sitting in a parking lot, so
Dang it.
it's a bummer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question though, because I do recommend anyone that is doing that, especially for the first year, especially like try to get it really close to you. Just if you're doing this for learning, get it close to you.
Because then you add 3 hours to your day in just drive time every
yeah,
time you have
sure.
to go there physically.
Yeah.
But
Which
if you could just find someone that's reliable, that's closer.
right, and I was
might
like
save
very
you time.
new for at the time, and I was like, I don't have my like handyman together yet. I was doing all that work, and so I didn't have all these things prepared. So yeah, the vomit story is very very exciting. And it was because I lowered the price too much. Because I saw it again.
Yep.
I was like months later. I was like, oh, lower the price a little bit more. I'll get a little bit more money, and maybe go from 6% occupancy in the winter to like 70% in this month. And I'd lowered it again, and there was like, fortunately, I had a new cleaner that noticed these things. But they're like, yeah, there's like dog pee on the couch and into the couch and into the thing under the couch that holds the pillows. And it's just like, cool. How did this happen? Dogs aren't allowed, first of all.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah. So.
So, if you don't mind, if we just because sorry, we're running a little short on
That's
time.
okay.
Could you tell us, since you're good with numbers, how much money did you make or lose in your first full year?
Let me warm up my jelly star here.
Yeah.
My first
That's what I
year.
tell my wife sometimes.
Okay, we're gonna.
Let me warm up my jelly starter. All right. Me around
She hates it.
I'm sure. So this is excluding rehab. So pulling rehab costs. By the way, really quick cost. Rehab
'cause
cost $3,200.
$3,200.
Most of it was food.
Okay. But you can take that and spread it over time.
I could, yeah.
Yeah.
In this
That's a
scenario, this is
capital
simplified.
expense.
Exactly. Another one is setup costs, $10,000 also. So my set. my whole
What
place-
kind of cost was that again?
furniture, furnishings, and like
Okay. So
making it-
10,000,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I did a little bit more than I should have for sure. Like,
Yeah.
but I wanted things to last and be really high quality.
Sure.
And then so operating revenue year one, $58,000.
Okay.
Operating expense, $58,800.
Now, does that include down payment and everything like that? Is that what you're figuring?
No, down payment separate. So this
So
is
what
just
are
operating
your big
expense.
expenses?
Big expenses are, my cleaning is a pass-through expense, but it is an expense. So it's mortgage, HOA fee, and cleaning is the big one. So mostly is because a lot of that is first-year expenses that just like, oh, I didn't realize I needed that. I need to get this thing too. The other big thing is I'm leaving a lot of money on the table with revenue. So year over year, September and October this year, I'm 20% up from last year. So I think having that will help bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm negative $800 this year.
Okay. If you brought in the exact same revenue this next year,
Yeah.
you essentially though should make more money.
Right, because I won't have like, oh, I'll get an extra, replacement bed and all these other weird things that I kind of needed. They'll be
Yeah.
good for a while. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But you anticipate growing almost 20%?
I don't know if the 20% will be maintained. I think I can gain 20% in the off season, but I probably can't make that up in the summer, like 20% more. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I think 20 to 15, maybe 10 is what I can expect on the revenue side, and even the less expenses too, ideally. And who knows, maybe someday I can refi, but I'm not planning on that at all.
Yeah. Now, do you figure in any debt pay down or anything like that in your calculations?
Yeah, so
Or
I have
like tax write-offs, that kind of stuff?
not so much the tax write-offs, not in my current calculations. I'm not that together yet, but I do have my mortgage pay down at like $3,800 a year. So if I include that for the
Yeah.
first year, like I am positive, right?
Right, yeah.
If I worked for free.
Yes, it's a lot of work, but I mean, it's a lot of startup,
Yeah,
and that's what like a lot of people don't have patience out there. But
Yeah. I do want
you
to
just
come out of
gotta
work really quickly though, because it does seem like this is a lot of work. Right?
Yeah, tons.
Nowadays, now that I've put in a lot of work on operationalizing this and having my checklist and having my cleaners sorted out and all the things I could possibly automate, I'm like, 30 minutes a week at most. Usually like
Good
10,
point.
15 minutes a week.
Yeah, so
And
if
that's
you
all it
were-
takes.
So if you bought another condo, if you had the down payment money, would you do it?
Not a condo now. Yeah.
Okay.
My next move is to get a short-term rental that I can live in and be my home base, but it to be a single-family home, more cabin aesthetic, land, acreage, farther from town, and just charge big rates while I want to go travel, see family out of state, or just like be gone for months at a time. That's my kind of next short-term rental move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, if we ask you a little bit about the event too that you were just
I'd
at
love
for
to
a
talk
couple
about this
days.
event. I can't believe all the cool people we got to hear.
Yeah. So Tom Millwright, that was actually that was your best, or
It's hard to say best.
Okay. What else? What else did you kind of learn there at the event that you feel like you're actually going to take away and maybe apply?
I was reinforced by action. Action's huge. You're not going to get it perfect. You're going to get it quite wrong, actually. But the more you act, the more you'll move that flywheel, and you'll get better at it. So reminder to act was a big deal. Another big one was talking about like, time, money. What are your limitations? Right. That was a big theme. It's just I need to outsource more. So there's lots of things I'm doing that I don't love that I know how to do now.
Yeah. I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think it could be a bad habit if you stay with that. But I think it's great to just be in it. Me personally, this is just my experience, and I think it's great to be all in for the first deals that you're doing. Like if you're doing a fix and flip, I don't think there's anything wrong with like being a part of the entire process of fixing up the house and all that stuff. If you first short-term rental, I don't think there's anything wrong with like you doing everything. But like if you want to scale and you want to actually grow and get some of your time back, you're going to have to start implementing and like putting people in place. But you having, firsthand experience and knowing what's involved, it's a lot easier for you to like tell people what to do with confidence.
I would
and
argue
not,
it's critical. Yeah.
It's a lot easier just to leverage when you know what's involved.
Yeah,
you know.
We're doing it this way because I know, because I did it. That's why it's on the checklist. I was there. If you don't do it this way, it's going to fail. That's why. Having those experiences are critical. Yeah.
And you don't get the checklist until, like you said, you kind of go through it, right? Because there's templates online for what you should and shouldn't do, but like I learned by experience, and I'm sure you do too. Nick does too, right? Like I've learned everything I don't want to do by doing it.
Yes.
I'm
many
serious.
times.
Like when I sometimes I work on my own flips and I'm like, I don't really like this. Like, how can we outsource this? Right? This isn't for me. Like I'm not good at it.
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah.
I enjoy it. Like I feel good when I'm doing it, but like it's not a good time per value of my dollar and my time. But I want to touch on one other thing. I knew we are getting kind of close on time, but we're doing okay right now. You mentioned when you were lowering prices onto your Airbnb, that's when you realized you were starting to get some bad occupants, correct?
Correct.
So I'm assuming something you've learned from this is, like don't lower the price unless you absolutely have to, or try to find some other way to make it work.
Yeah, there's a floor, right? So I wasn't lowering it because I needed to like make the mortgage payment and I didn't have enough money. It was I wanted to try to maximize my revenue.
Sure.
So yeah, there's a floor. I needed to find it and say that if you want a kind of quality guest, you just have to accept that most of them are going to be the ones that are okay paying a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you lower the price too much, you do really unlock a different sort of tenant to be occupying your property.
For sure.
Yes.
Not tenant, by the way. Let's be very clear.
Okay, yeah, not tenant,
Yeah.
occupant.
It
What
was
is
a
it?
Washington fee. Yeah, so I'm an innkeeper and they are a guest.
Okay, whatever a guest. Yeah, yeah. You invite a certain sort of guest when you lower the price to a critical mass almost, right?
Very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. So going forward, like you said, you're going to the next deal you think you're going to make. You're going to buy a big house out on the country, Airbnb that, and get to travel, do all the fun things you want.
Yeah, I basically got like a year, 2 years, something like that before kids are happening, and so I'm like, this is the window.
Yeah.
Just go crazy, go leave. You know,
Now's the
Basically,
time.
It's a storage unit for my stuff that's going to make me money. That's how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what my my in-laws do. So they have a house out in 9 Mile, Washington. It's just 20 miles. It's 10 miles east or west of Spokane. It's pretty close. But there's an outshed, and they use it to store their boat and all their stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
And then they rent out the house, and they're like, we get a place for our stuff, and we get rental income. It works out really well for them.
Real estate is so flexible and so fun.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you just a couple questions, Leif. We're going to kind of wind down if that's okay. These are all hypothetical questions. We've asked them to our guests over time. But so say somebody gave you $30 million gifted to one of your bank accounts. What's the first thing you would spend it on?
I'd first ask where they got this from. But then I would probably be interested in a few things. So one would be I'd be looking for businesses to buy and rehab. I am an operations person. I love working with businesses. Specifically, I think I'd buy some auto repair shops that are just like in distress. We talked about storage units and how a lot of those, like, they're not online. They're not doing the basic. They're not answering the phone.
Yep.
They're not online. The basic checklist of things. Same thing's happening with auto repair shops all around the country. And I have a soft spot for that type of thing, and I like operationalizing it. So
Yeah.
I'd buy a couple of those and be like, we're just going to do the basics here. We're going to tell our customers the truth. We're going to charge them reasonable amounts. We're going to be online, right?
Sounds like a good business plan.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if there was an auto place? Maybe there is, but like you just go to their website and you click, I need my tires rotated and an alignment and all these things, and you could just set it all up online.
That'd be wonderful.
Instead of like having to call or like show up and just sit there and wait until it's your turn. Like Les
Right.
Schwab's, I love Les Schwab's, but like they don't do appointments,
Yeah.
so you have to just go in there and plan on spending
Really?
half your day.
Yeah. So
There's other places I can tell you about that do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I get my tires rotated for free there because I bought them, and I have to do it with my car like every 5,000 miles.
Free.
It's ridiculous.
so that they can be under your car and tell you what you need next.
Right.
Oh, they haven't done that yet.
Oh,
Well,
fair.
anyway, I'll hook you up with different auto repair places when we're done here. So the next question is, what has been the most impactful book on real estate or investing or business that you've ever read?
Oh gosh, I had this one prepared and then I forgot it.
Then you didn't have it prepared.
Yeah, apparently not. So, Tax-Free Wealth was really great, but I think Tax-Free Wealth was also kind of a bit of a. It's not what the biggest limiting factor was, right? Revenue and profit and doing more of the business is the limiting factor. Taxes is just like a checklist item. You should do it right.
I think taxes are the most boring and most fascinating thing.
Agreed.
Like I try to tell my wife, like, I'm excited about this stuff, and she's like, you're gonna literally put me to sleep telling me about what you learned about the self-directed IRA and how to grow tax-free wealth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so exciting, but I understand how you could think it's boring.
Definitely.
Yeah. Next question for you, Leif. When you're not investing in real estate, so obviously you have your own business. What do you like to do outside of that? Like, what do you like to do with your free time?
Okay, yeah, sure. My own business, quick plug. I am a professional that works with a CRM called Method CRM, which is the best CRM and app development platform for people that use QuickBooks and QuickBooks Desktop.
Okay.
So not much work with QuickBooks Desktop, but if you're using QuickBooks Desktop, we can do amazing things with it. So that's like my day job is I automate people's systems and get rid of all their spreadsheets.
Okay.
So what do I like to do for fun after that is have my phone off and be out somewhere else. So off in the woods is great.
Yeah. I mean, your phone is already basically not a smartphone, so even if it's on, like, what are you
It's
gonna
a
look at your
mildly
spreadsheets?
smartphone.
Mildly smartphone. Okay. So your hobbies, you like to go other places. Anything in particular you like to do with your time?
Oh, sure, yeah. Adopt new hobbies, just like too many hobbies, right?
Sure.
I actually had an amazing realization that you can actually get rid of hobbies. I didn't know that. I thought you could just only take them in and have to adopt them and take care of them and be stressed about them when you don't do them.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it cool? You can just like let go of the things that don't serve you.
You're like, that's great. I don't need you
That
anymore.
was snowboarding.
Really? You let go of
I
it?
used to love snowboarding. I was a snowboard instructor, and then like after I met my wife and we had our first kid, I just kind of gave it up. I'm like, I don't want to break a hip or a leg or
True.
like
We're
it's
pushing
not
40
that
now, man.
important. It's like it's
Yeah.
not that important for me to go out on the hill.
That's how I feel about mountain biking right now. It's like, this is super fun, but like eventually I'm going to be like, I don't want to be broken the next day and be like ruined.
Sure. Exactly.
Not fun.
Last question for you, if this is even feasible or possible, like where can people find out more about you if they want to learn more about your story, or are you even on social media?
Not so much. I'm not really
okay.
a social media person, but I do have a website for my professional work, methodcustomization.com.
Methodcustomization.com.
But
Okay.
otherwise, no, I'm trying not to have another online presence with real estate since I have so many other hobbies that I'm interested in.
Sure.
Not yet. Someday.
And just there's a personal question on this fact, like, are you not on social media because it doesn't feel good or doesn't serve you, or you just don't like how it makes you feel? Toiletable mentality is a real thing, right? So
Yeah. So I do have an Instagram, but it's not like I post there much
Sure.
or anything like that. I've come to realize that, algorithms are powerful. They're actually much more powerful than most humans' willpower.
Yeah.
So if you open yourself up to an algorithm, you're like playing in a playground of danger and death. Like you're just going to get sucked in and manipulated in ways that you can't perceive. So, social media
sure.
is challenging in that way for me.
it is. Yeah. And props to you for staying off it, because honestly, like, I've seen it ruin people's lives, and it's something that like it's ingrained in my business now.
Yeah. It is a business thing. That's the challenge, right?
Yeah. Like, I don't even have a website. I just find all my clients on Instagram.
That's
And,
great, yeah.
And it's like, why would I give that up
And
when
for
that's,
your
that's my
business,
deal
I
flow,
totally
right?
get it, right? And so the cool thing, by the way, Instagram is you don't need the app anymore. You
Yeah.
can use it on the computer. It didn't used to be the case, right? And it's so unaddicting on the computer. You're like, it's just terrible to use on the
It's
computer.
pretty bad.
Which is great.
Yeah. But it's hard to post on when I'm on the go, because most of the time I'm posting I'm on a job site looking at this cool thing I did, versus it goes on my phone, then I have to upload it to my computer, and now I've made myself a new job.
Yeah, right.
But so I know we are running out of time, but I do want to say, Leif, thank you so much for joining us today on the Investor Shed podcast. Thanks for sharing your story. It's good to hear from people doing it from the first time, and the ups and downs, and the will to continue. Right. So don't let this deal get you in the depths. Get out there and get your next deal done.
Yeah, I lost money this year. I can't wait to do it again.
Active losses, man. I love it.
You didn't actually lose money, right?
It's true. I lost cash.
Cash, but you have more equity in that property than
I do.
So.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Appreciation, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Both of you.
thanks
This
for
was a
being here.
wonderful
Appreciate
experience.
it. Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.